ways. Mr. Childs just asked a question about urban heat island. I think at some point in time, the pavement community is going to get drawn into this whole thing as a result of the planners and individuals at the higher decision-making process starting to say this whole sustainability thing has got to come down to a major asset in the United States. So Lois, the question to you is, do you see that happening sooner than 10 or 15 years from now, or do you think it's going to be longer than that, or do you think that the policy makers are not going to have any impact at all?
Well, I don't know if I can answer your question in terms of process. I think this is because of the usual challenges and the added challenges, unprecedented challenges we're seeing. The conversations are changing, but I think there will be a continuing appreciation for the importance of transportation, access to transportation, serving all sorts of users. How we travel is changing, but we're still going to want to travel. I don't know if I fully understood your question about urban heat island and that sort of thing, but the planning profession is supposed to bring in all these perspectives and concerns and try to find what is a path forward.
Let me see if I can clarify a little bit. There was a reference made to a rating system for highways.
Yes.
All right. When you saw this non-governmental group, the United States Clean Building Council, impact the built environment in the United States, you see it increasing ever more. I would think at some point in time we're going to start to see a rating system, and in fact the American Society of Civil Engineers is working on an infrastructure rating system right now. At some point in time, I think the whole rating system and that kind of approach could start to apply to the pavement industry. So, but is it going to be driven by policymakers, or is it going to come some other way?
Well, I'll just mention the Federal Surface Transportation Act, MAP 21, really emphasizes performance-based planning and programming. So this notion of US DOT is going to be coming out with performance measures. For example, one that seems expected is travel time reliability or this and that, and then states will set targets and metropolitan planning organizations will set targets. So this whole notion of what are you doing, how is it performing, and these measures help describe or define what you're looking at and the targets where you want to go with them. It's more of an accountability, looking at all these sorts of things, performance-based. So whether it's called LEAD or it's called performance measures, at DOT they have a new position. Doug McLeod there has developed mobility performance measures that looks at measures for people and for freight, regularly reported. You are what you measure. I mean, we may end up over-measuring, but there is this idea of what are you doing? Is it creating the effects you expect? And if not, there needs to be a mid-course correction, whether it's called LEAD or performance measures or whatever you call them. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but we're moving in that direction.
Yeah, Bob, I was going to add, maybe weave in just something real quick. We've talked about recycling quite a bit in this question and answer period. And I wanted just to challenge ourselves to bring this kind of discussion to the policymakers who will make a difference going forward. Recycling successfully, we have heard, 20, 30 years. And I want to challenge us now that we're wearing our Mother Earth hat. How can we say no to Mother Earth? And what I will say is albedo, which came out in one of the questions, is the more we look into it, the more we can get out of it. It's a recent finding, probably California participants may know more than I do at this point. I understand that documentation exists now where there's a level of albedo where Mother Earth, in terms of what it impacts to the environment, it's equivalent to untouched grounds. So if we can actually have infrastructure at an albedo level that actually mirrors unaffected Mother Earth parts, then we're onto something. And this happens because we're challenging our life cycles. This happens because we're coming up with use phase type of reviews, that extra information that we have. So the challenge, to a great extent, I think it's ours. We will then tell our politicians, don't say no to Mother Earth. And then we move forward.
I'll just add one of the points I made about the planning profession trying to inform decision-making. So the information's changing, the challenges are changing, but at the end of the day, that's what anyone can bring to the table to help inform decision-making.
Very good. We'll probably have room for one more question, but I just wanted to add my thoughts to this because it relates to a question that was asked before by Tim. How do we take the environmental savings that we talk about in here and insert that and make it a factor in the selection of projects? It's a very good question. And we see that some other parts of the world have been able to monetize the environmental savings in Europe in general, and say the carbon emissions, we're having this much savings in tons or whatever, we have a conversion factor of X, Y, we could monetize that and count that before we make the final decision. So I hope that we are going to be evolving in time to get to that point where we can account for all of these things in the decision making. I guess we have one room, no more? Okay, I apologize, I guess we could come back and ask later. We were told to cut it here and yeah. Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause.
Two housekeeping points right now, please. Number one, any of you who have signed up to receive a certificate of attendance, they'll be waiting for you out on the registration desk at 3:30 when the summit concludes. Please join us outside for some more beverages. There